Hey friends, welcome back to A Culture of Inspiration, the podcast for artists sponsored by Counterculture DIY. I'm your host, Sarah Brown, and together with my husband, I own Counterculture DIY, where we serve artists by providing everything you need for your resin art, and we do it with a lot of heart. This season, you'll be hearing from other artists as they share their stories, their successes, triumphs, tragedies, failures, tips, and inspiration. Join me every Tuesday for a new episode. I can't wait for you to hear what we've got in store. Have you ever come across an art form that captivated your attention so completely that you knew you were going to have to try it for yourself? But maybe over time you found yourself talking about it a lot, but never actually doing it? My guest today found himself in that situation when he discovered epoxy river tables. He was so captivated by this art form, he knew he had to make one for himself. But building river tables is no joke. It is a huge task. And after he spent a lot of time saying he was going to build one, he found that he still hadn't actually done it. Until one day he believed in himself enough to say, "All right, no more talking, it's time to make it happen." I'm excited to introduce you all to Rory Nicholson of Eye Candy Resin Art. He does epoxy river tables and all kinds of beautiful, colorful resin art. If you've been intimidated by jumping into something new, I think you'll enjoy hearing from Rory. He went from merely talking about river tables to building his first one to keeping steadily busy selling them. We'll hear from Rory about things he wished he'd known when he started out. We'll find out what's next for him in his art career. And also, we'll hear the one thing he thinks everyone needs to hear if they're thinking of trying their hand at river tables or any epoxy art. I can't wait for you to hear what Rory has to share. Let's dive in. Well, hi, Rory. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
We are so glad you're here. But for anybody who doesn't already know you, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Rory Nicholson. I have a little business called Eye Candy Resin Art, and I create river tables and resin art pieces. I also have a day job, so I kind of juggle the two of making tables on the weekends and being a production coordinator at a factory during the week. So that's pretty much what I do. I do a lot of work.
You stay busy.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, you know it. Definitely. I've got 3 different projects going right now.
Well, tell us how it all started with the resin art. Like, what got into your head that made you say, I want to tackle this kind of project?
I knew I needed a hobby because I was coming home and playing video games. I just bought a house. So obviously there was a huge influx of money that needed to be made. And I was thinking about it, how many years it's going to take to pay this house off. And I was like, how can I make money? And so I realized that there was value in these tables. And on Instagram, I would scroll through Instagram. And I mean, it's been several years ago. They really started becoming more noticeable. Like you started seeing more river tables and stuff, of actual people pouring resin. And I just thought they were beautiful and it looked fairly easy to do. So I was like, one day I got my mind made up and we had a little bit of money. And so I bought everything that I needed to do it and I tried it out and it went well. I pretty much did everything the wrong way. Didn't really ask any questions. I mean, what I paid in materials for my first table, I never got back. I gave it away basically. There was no selling it because I messed up so many different times. I had to redo it.
I think everybody's first resin project is probably like that, though. Like you go in and you got to buy all this stuff and there's a learning curve.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. I would do like step by step on YouTube. I would go through some of them. But yeah, basically and another thing about me, because I've made a lot of river tables and stuff. You've seen all the stuff that I've done. But a lot of it's like something snapped in me where I started believing in myself and I knew there was something greater. I mean, it's just, I knew I had to do something. And so when I was at work and I, was working with people, I would talk about things. And I started talking about river tables what I was going to do, and then one day I stopped talking and I started doing everything that I said I was going to do. Kind of like the movie Yes Man, where he has to do everything that somebody, if they ask him for $100,000, he has to give it to them. Well, my deal was if I talk about doing it, I have to actually do it and show results.
I think that is such a hurdle to get over for anybody that's got a creative mind. And sometimes you see so many possibilities, you end up spinning your wheels, not even knowing where to start. And so, yeah, I think you've, by taking that very first step, you've gotten so much farther than so many people do. Because how many people think, man, I would love to make a river table or resin art of any kind or any kind of art. And they think about it and they scroll through Instagram or Pinterest and make all these lists in their heads of things that they want to do, but they never take that first step, like you said, just to believe in yourself and think, yes, I can make this a reality.
Yeah. Because I used to draw really well when I was younger, and I painted quite a bit. Actually, before I got into resin art or resin in general, I had debated on doing chainsaw art.
Oh,
Debated on it, because here in Arkansas, I guess they make bears and out of chainsaws, these huge bears and like Indian figures or whatever. But that didn't come through, so decided on a different route.
well, there's still time. Maybe someday you'll be doing
I mean,
chainsaw
I
art
could.
too.
Yeah, I have a chainsaw. I don't have any time to mess with it.
No, you're busy. Well, tell me about once you really started believing in yourself, decided you're making this a reality, when did it really start to take off? When did you start to see that you were getting orders for these tables and you realized that there was no more time to play video games, that you were doing tables all the time?
Well, instantly, as soon as I started the project and I poured it. Okay, I'll tell you this little story. I had never done one yet. I talked about doing them on Facebook, and so my family from other states knew that I was going to start making them. Well, I posted a picture of somebody else's work, and I said, in the title, I said, "This is not my work. This is what I want to do." And then I got all these comments of, "Oh, you did amazing, Rory. Good job, blah, blah, blah." And so then I couldn't not make something. So I had to make something.
Yeah, you'd set a standard with somebody
Yeah,
else's picture.
I can't just have somebody else's picture there and not have my own. So, and my deal is the whole eye candy resin art, because like my colors are like loud and I like them to be like pretty vivid. And so that's the eye candy part. A lot of times they look like a Jolly Rancher.
Yes, I can see that. Your stuff does have really vibrant colors to it. And for anyone who doesn't know, I have one of Rory's tables in my house and it is so beautiful. And it's like a dark teal down the middle. And everybody who comes into my house, the very first thing they do is walk over to that table and just go gaga over it. I had someone over here tonight, and the first thing he did was walk over and say, "Wow, this table."
That's the cool thing about it too, is because like I made it for y'all, but it's having an effect on all these people's lives in a positive way.
Yep.
That's why I love this art so much. I'm so addicted to it. It's because I can reach people.
Yeah. And I've talked about it a lot when I've talked on the podcast here with tumbler makers, how I think that the reason that the tumbler art took off so much is because it's a functional piece of artwork. And it's not something that, you might make a little knickknack and give to someone and they put it in a drawer, or you paint a painting and it doesn't match their decor, so it goes in the closet. This is something that you make and you give to someone and they literally are going to have it in their hand and see it and use it. And it's going to be part of their lives every day. And that's just like the tables. I mean, that table in my house gets used every day. We eat on it. We play games on it. Everybody who comes into my house notices it. It's the centerpiece of our home.
The color choice y'all went with, the mixture of colors, the mermaid and stuff. It turned out, that's probably one of the best colors that I've ever seen, honestly.
I think it's pretty special. I love it.
It's like moving if you look at it. It's crazy.
Yes. It is. It's a very dark teal. It's a mixture of some of our colors, mermaid and Bora Bora and teal twinkle, I think.
Yep.
And Rory swirled them all together, and it is absolutely beautiful.
And it's not small either. It's like 9 feet long.
Yes, it's huge. We needed a
Yes.
really big table, and we got it. Well, tell us some of the things. I know you said, like, when you started out, you did everything wrong, and you could probably write a book about all the things you did wrong. So
Yeah.
tell us some of those things. Like, what are like the top 3 or 4 things that looking back now, you think, man, I wish I would have known this when I started out?
Flood coating, actually, any art piece that's bigger than like 2 foot by 2 foot, or a table in particular, like flood coating, is not as easy as it looks. You need to watch, you need to do your research on it, or you'll mess up every time. You'll have to sand it down and do it over and over again. And resin is expensive, especially like on a large piece. I've had to sand down so many different flood coats, or like I would know they were messed up with micro bubbles because I guess I stirred too quickly. And so I ruined like $100 worth of resin right there. Trash, can't use it. So, and I've done that probably 8 times.
That's painful.
Yeah, just stuff like that. The micro bubbles, especially, and if you're a resin artist and you mix resin, I know we all struggle with the bubbles, but especially it's really evident like under like a black resin, you can see them. So that's the big thing, is make sure your part A and part B are at room temperature before you even begin to touch it.
Now, do you mix with like the big electric mixer in a bucket, or do you mix it by hand?
Like when I did your table and the bigger tables, it's in a bucket, and it's done by gallons. I squeeze every bit out of the gallons in there, and I mix it. I had to buy an even longer one to fit to the bottom of the 5 gallon bucket. But yeah, I mean, what I'll do is I'll use a paint stick and scrape the sides. Then I'll take that out, and then I'll use the drill mixer, make sure it's all mixed up. And your products, especially the hard cast, it mixes like water. I mean, it's mixed. You could barely touch it and mix it. It's kind of weird. Good product too.
A little shout out there.
Yeah, I'm not joking either. It cures harder than any resin I've ever found.
Well, that's great. That is a great testimony.
And I've
What
used a lot of it.
else? So, mixing your resin, flood coating. What else? What else do you wish that you would have known back in the day?
Starting out in river tables, you had to create some river tables to have them to show to potential clients. So you can't just have nothing. So you have to start doing stuff. I started small. I started with like family and friends. They would want coffee tables. And so I knew that it would sell. Now, the first table that I made, where I didn't make any money, I had it listed online for probably 9 months. Nobody touched it. Nobody even thought about getting it. And so it's not always, you can't just make one and put it online and have it instantly sell. It's not that easy. You kind of got to work for it.
Yeah, there's probably kind of a fine line, isn't there? Because you've got to have something to show people of your work. But then, yeah, where do you put a dozen tables
Exactly.
that aren't part of your home?
And a lot of what I've realized is, especially like with bigger tables, clients, if they really, really want a table from you, they're going to want it from your brand. Like they're going to want an Eye Candy river table. They're not just going to want some regular table. And a lot of times they're not going to care too much about price either, because they are there to buy a table. And so they already know how much they cost, etc. So that's really good. Usually the best type of client will contact you. In my opinion, just from the work that I've done, I really haven't done too much paid advertisements or anything. A lot of it's word of mouth. I'm well known in my area. There's a lot of things I have to turn down work because I don't have time to do it. I feel bad telling the person that I just can't make your table. I'm sorry. So I don't have room to, and I have 3 other tables down there.
Would you say most of your clients come from your immediate area, or how far out do you go? I know you brought one to Joplin, which is a few hours away, but
let's see here. Oklahoma. I got contacted on Messenger out of the blue by a guy. I had some art piece listed on a marketplace. He contacted me and he's like, he just chose me. I don't know why he chose me, but he did, because I didn't really have a huge itinerary of things that I'd made. But I guess he had his faith in me, and so I made a table for his big RV bus he has, and it turned out amazing. I mean, incredible.
In an RV bus.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, it looks so cool in there. It's a fold down and everything, but it's cedar and like a see-through blue resin. But after that one, and I didn't even charge him right. I texted him later and I was like, I kind of messed the numbers up. I didn't realize how much resin it was going to take. He was really, really cool. He's like, no problem at all, buddy. I just make it and tell me what the charge is. And then when he came down with his wife, they came down in their big RV, got to meet them, super cool people. We hit it off. Then they wanted a dining table. And so then it led to the dining table. And so, and the original table that went in his RV, instead of getting me 500, he gave me 1,000 just because.
That is awesome.
So I was like, thank you. He's like, yeah, I know it probably took a little bit more than you thought it did to make it. But then he wanted like a black dining table with another river table as a bench seat on it. But he basically gave me like a blank check on that one. He's like, we want it completely custom. He doesn't care. So
that's a dream client.
Yeah, he collects classic cars. He's a really cool guy. So, and I made a desk for him too.
Repeat customers.
Yep. Because once they buy one, they're gonna be like, man, we got to get another one.
Yeah. Well, tell us how long. Like, you did 3 different projects for this guy. Tell us how long it normally takes, start to finish, from the time someone calls you up and says, okay, I'm ready for you to start. How long before they're going to get that finished product?
It depends. As you know, it took me quite a while for y'all's, but we had some different issues that came up with yours. But if I had to, I can get one done within a week, but I have a job I have to go to every day. But yeah, like the really, really giant tables, they take so much time to sand. Like on your table alone, probably 60, 70 hours of sanding. And that's not a joke.
I know it's not. Wow.
Yeah. And I would, just see something I didn't like and I'd have to go redo it, but just stuff like that. But yeah, generally I would say if somebody came to me and they wanted a table, within 3 to 4 weeks, they could have one delivered to their door.
Well, and I will say all that sanding, that table that we have is absolutely flawless. Like, you can't find a spot on it that's not just like satin. Oh, it's just perfect.
I had in my basement for a while because it took quite a bit longer because, well, with yours, your husband had me try a new finish out on it that I'd never done, Osmo, and I wasted so much money on Osmo. Because I would put it all on there like the guy on YouTube did, and mine did not turn out right every single time. And so finally I was like, I can't keep wasting money on Osmo, and so I just did it the good old fashioned way, and it turned out beautiful. Yeah,
it is really beautiful. And yeah, that's kind of the difference from ours. It has more of a satin finish versus the shiny epoxy flood coat finish. I know maybe if people aren't as familiar with terminology, like earlier when you said, those flood coats are difficult. Mm-hmm. That's when you're pouring epoxy over it, doing a top layer of hard, shiny resin. The table that we have has more of a satin finish. It doesn't have that flood coat on top. But I love it. Yeah, it can make the piece a lot more dramatic too. If it's a matte, generally that's what I've found. Like especially like black tables. If I was to redo that one I did and do that in the same finish as y'all's, it would be a lot better looking. I think it would. Oh, I'm sure you have a lot of them that you look back and think, man, if I did that one again, I would do this little thing different. Yeah, that one was. Yeah, I've got a big one downstairs. It's a huge cedar table. I'm pretty sure some of your audience has probably seen it. It's purple. Yes. Oh, I know that purple one. Yep. It's almost done. It's going to be up here. I've got a dining table up here, but I'm tired of it. So we got another one downstairs. That's the benefit of doing them yourself. That's the cool thing too, is that you can just make another one. So, but
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many things that have led me up to this point where I'm talking to you right now. It's a lot of first steps. Like you got to go into the unknown. Like with that guy, he trusted me. I don't entrusted me to make something really beautiful for him, and I did it. And I didn't I'd never done a giant table. I had no idea if I could do it, but I went ahead and I attempted it and I did it. And so now here I am. Because
Yeah.
that was one of the tables that like helped to boost me up and say, hey, Rory, Eye Candy Resin Art's making some cool stuff.
Yeah. You share a lot of your stuff online. I love that you share when things are in progress too, and kind of take people through that journey. And that was fun for us when we were seeing our table come together
Yeah.
bit by bit. And it just adds to that anticipation that that this is going to be in your home at some point.
Another thing is I love to talk about river tables or resin art. And so when I get a potential client or somebody messages me, I generally form like a relationship with them. We end up being friends every time. It's like the guy from Oklahoma. We're buddies. I still show him pictures of stuff that I'm doing recently. I don't know, because I just love talking about it. And that's a big part of it is that you're included in making it, every single aspect of it, from the color to the wood to, I mean, anything you could think about it. If you want something carved in it. So that's the whole aspect is it's like immersive.
That reminds me of something too that I wanted to let you talk about. Of course, you get your epoxy and a lot of your colorants from us at Counterculture, but tell us about sourcing those big slabs of wood, because it's not like you can just walk into the hardware store and get these rough cuts, giant pieces of wood. So tell us what goes into that.
And that's another thing that the whole, starting out the learning curve is basically you search marketplace for live edge wood slabs. They need to be kiln dried. And what I did is I found a company in Missouri that they did the best work, and I mean they had everything that I needed. So because they saw the wood and they would kiln dry it and surface it because it needs to be completely flat. It has to be at a certain moisture content or the resin will react and it'll do a bunch of bad stuff. And the slabs, in my opinion, once you find a good source of hardwood slabs, you'll make way better tables. It's evident by your table because of those slabs. I feel like slab choice can definitely make a table, and they're not cheap either. If you buy kiln dried wood, some of it's very, very expensive. Say like one of the boards in a table, that board would be $370, just that board.
And most tables you're going to be using two
Yes,
of those.
correct. So you can imagine yeah. I think the most money that I spent on wood for a table was probably $1,500.
Woo!
Yeah, that's just for the wood. So.
And what kinds of wood are best? I know ours you said is hackberry, right?
Yeah.
Is what ours is. And you said you made cedar for the RV. What types? Does it need to be a harder wood or does it really matter? Or
It depends on the finish. If you're going to flood coat it, it doesn't have to be a hardwood. Hackberries, it's a really beautiful wood. Let's see here. Yeah, it needs to be a harder species of wood, especially if you planned on sanding it and applying like an Osmo finish, because you could come into problems of finding areas in your wood that's foamy and you'll have to stabilize that before you can sand it again and stuff like that. But black walnut, that's really, really, really beautiful, easy to work with. Stands really good. Another good one is sycamore. I made a really beautiful sycamore table. And cedar. I love cedar. I'm well known for cedar tables. So, I mean, because it's not super expensive. You can get cedar quite a bit cheaper. And I just feel like, I don't know, I just like working with it.
well, let's kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about your group. We've talked a lot about your tables personally, but you've got a really large Facebook group dedicated to river tables and resin art. So tell us about that.
It's been a little bit over a year ago. I was a member of several different groups. I hadn't met Counterculture DIY yet, so I hadn't met y'all yet. But I was in all these river table groups, and what got me is like the admins. They would never like support the other, like say people post in their group like I kind of wish they would make their group profile picture like somebody's table. And how cool would that be to be able to do that for somebody? And then one day I was like, I'm just going to make my own group and I'm going to make it really big. During that point in time, a little bit over a year ago, I guess the algorithm was a little bit different, and I have a certain method of spreading the group, and some of it involves contacting other admins. If you straight up, text them, tell them what you're trying to do, see if they'll help you out. And he gave me a post in his group, and just boom, it just kind of chain reacted. I got a whole bunch of members, and it just kept going and going and going.
Would you say in your group, is it a lot of people who are actively making river tables and resin art, or would you say it's a lot of people who just love them and like to see other people's work?
Generally, yeah, just a lot of people that like to look at them, that are really interested by them. There are some really, really good artists in the group, though. Really, really good ones. Better than me. There's a guy. Yeah, there's a guy in my group that's selling tables for $40,000.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So he's on a different level.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And, yeah, and the cool thing about groups is you get to learn. I get to learn from them. So
yeah, and you let somebody have their table be your profile picture every month too.
Yeah, that's the fun part. I do that too, and it could be a little trinket or whatever. Anybody can be on the cover profile. It doesn't matter if it's a little tiny giraffe that you've made. It'll get picked.
That's neat. I think you've got a very inclusive group that really does encourage people to share. So I like that. Tell us what's next, Rory. You've taken that first step that got you rolling with making these river tables. You've made, how many have you made?
16.
16. You've made 16 river tables. And you also, I guess I should mention too, you do other things besides river tables.
Yeah, I do a lot more art. I've done a lot more art than river tables actually, because river tables are a lot more expensive to make. All the resin that goes into them. People don't realize that, like the size of a dining table, like your table, that's thousands in resin. People don't realize it. I didn't realize it when I first started because it looks like just a fluid they're pouring in there, but it's actually expensive.
Yes.
But what's next for me? I would say I'm going to do a lot more resin art. I've taken a new position at work. I think I told you that, but basically my job's a little bit harder. I work 11 hours a day. So I've kind of taken a big step back from stuff. But my next table is going to be another cedar table. And I'm thinking about doing some type of a translucent green. I think that'll be really cool. And it'll be in a different style. It won't be like a typical 2 slab setup. It'll be a little bit different than that.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Oh, yeah, it'll be crazy. It'll be vivid. I get tons of ideas online too. So just that. And also, I mean, doing these river tables, or anybody out there that's doing crafts and, it's boosting your self-esteem. People are seeing your work and they're like, wow, you're doing really, really good. That's amazing how you're able to do that. And then that boosts your confidence even more, and you can go way farther in life just by having your confidence boosted. And if somebody gives me a compliment, I will run with it. You gave me a compliment one night on one of your lives. You said he's a force of nature. And I just took that in my head and ran with it for like a month.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm the same way. I can exist for a month on one good compliment. So
I'm getting more into reels.
Oh, uh-huh.
I've made some pretty cool ones. I feel like I have. I'm doing some research on YouTube on how to make them better. Other than that would be getting some like better video equipment, like a lapel mic, like they do at some other companies that are on YouTube. They told me they use a lapel mic, so I need one of those, and actually start, seeing more of myself in videos.
Yeah, because you've got the whole room. I'm always impressed with your setup. You got like the Dexter lab with the trash cans, trash bags on the walls, and
it's black plastic. And it's probably there's like Yeah, we went pretty crazy with it. It's for a reason. It's not for no reason. It's not just to look cool either. It has to do with flood coats.
To
Because
keep all those contaminants out.
my theory is that the resin heats up, especially on a large surface, and becomes slightly magnetically charged. And so then all these little dust bunnies come into it. And you can't fix them once it's cured. It just looks like a hair. So
Yeah. Little specks and
yeah, yeah,
dimples. They'll cause little dimples. I know making a tumbler, like a 20-ounce tumbler, if you
yeah.
come back later and realize that a little speck of dust got on it and caused a fisheye, how devastating that can be. I can only imagine on an 8-foot table.
I have some stories. Stories. Now I've flood coated several different times because I messed it up a couple times. I had to sand it down and redo it. But that big desk I did for that guy, the large cedar section of it, the largest one, I had it stored. We had that bad snow. I was, in communication with him on Messenger, and he was going to come get it in a couple weeks. And I didn't have any resin left at all, not a single drop. And I went down there and looked at it, and one of my kids had put a scratch all the way down the table, a five thousand
Oh,
a $5,000 table. I had no
oh,
resin, and so my heart just jumped out of my chest. I was like, "What am I going to do? I can't. There's no way to fix it without reflooding it." So luckily, I was able to get some more resin and reflood it quickly, and he loves it. So it turned out
that's
good.
good. Happy ending to that story. Thank goodness.
Yeah. It was a tragedy at first. I was so heartbroken because I mean that one little scratch, I had to sand all that resin down, and that's how much it's like $100 a layer.
Yeah.
Resin's not cheap. It was all worth it in the end because I mean they're so happy with it. He actually got it. Resin. The drawback with having the glossy flood coat, it's really beautiful and appealing, but it's very delicate. You can scuff it with your hand, and your hand's not even sandpaper. So what they did is he took it to a company in Oklahoma where they wrap like luxury vehicles, like paint protection film. It's like a 3M wrap, and he got the desk wrapped in that.
Really?
And he said it doesn't have a single scratch on it. You can try to scratch it with anything.
That's really interesting. I've
Yeah,
not heard of that. That's cool.
yeah. I tried to get Barry to do that. He didn't want to do it, which I don't blame him. I've Osmo finish. That's a good finish too. So.
Yeah, we love that table.
Is it? That's probably one of the prettiest tables I've made. Definitely got to be.
Well, we're sure proud of it. We're happy to show it off to anybody that'll listen to us, which it's not hard. As soon as they walk in our house, they're like, oh, this table.
Yeah. Has anybody said, where do I get one?
Yeah, boy, I recommend you all the time.
I believe it.
Well, what else, Rory, before we wrap up, what else would you like for people to know?
That you're capable of anything. You can do anything if you set your mind to it. Because from where I went 10 years ago to where I am now, I mean, it would blow your mind. All you have to do is just get out of your comfort zone. It's just like jumping on here and doing this with you. I've never done this. And so it's uncomfortable at first. But obviously, I mean, you get through it. So,
Yep. Well, and I had a boss one time say to me about some things that we had to do at work that people were scared of. Like the people who worked for me, they were scared. And I worked in retail. So it was a lot about like approaching people, selling things. And my boss told me, she said, you and the people that you work for have got to decide which you're more afraid of, talking to that person or failing, because you have to pick one.
wow.
And that advice really resonated with me. And I kind of apply that to everything in my life now. I'm thinking, well, which am I more scared of? Am I more scared of going live on a podcast and sounding silly, or never doing this thing that I wanted to do because I have to choose one,
You're good at
So just like you thought about it and talked about river tables for a long time, but it came down to, am
doing it.
I am I scared of failing? Am I scared of doing it? I've got to pick one. So that's some advice that has really resonated with me. And that helps push me to try and do new things that sometimes I don't think I'm capable of. So I think that's really good advice. You're capable of it. You've got to take that first step.
Yeah, definitely. Doing tumblers, I've done some tumblers, but really, I mean, there's a lot of artwork in those too. Some of them that I see, especially like they use the thick stuff where it'll look like it's
Yes, nice and thick. Yeah.
making stuff like that. You're an artist, so start acting like it.
Yes, Tumblr artists. There are some world-class artists that
In your
choose
group,
tumblers.
yeah,
That tumblers are what they do. It's incredible. Who would
it
have
is.
thought 10 years ago that there would be such a community of artists and what they make is cups that you drink out of? I mean, who would have predicted that? But it's
And it's
amazing.
booming.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And here's the thing about river tables, they're going to get more and more popular, in my opinion, because I can already see it happening. Like a lot of stuff with some of the people that I associate with, you know, like on Facebook and groups, they're doing like really, really big scale projects. Like there's a guy, like celebrities are buying these things now. So it's getting serious. Eventually, I mean, if you try hard enough and you make good enough product and get your name out there, I mean, the sky is the limit.
Absolutely. And I think river tables are becoming less of a novelty and more of something that people see and realize I could have this. Where, probably 10 years ago, when people would see a picture of something like that, they would think, wow, that's so beautiful. But it was so unusual that people didn't realize there might be a guy in my hometown that makes these, So
Another thing, I have sold a lot of tables and art pieces, but I've given a lot of stuff away. I feel like that's important too. You gotta give stuff away. I mean, if it doesn't sell, just give it away to a friend. With that being said, I feel like the universe will repay you. It's hard to explain, but like being able to help somebody else without anything in return, especially if they don't even know you helped them, like universe and God will repay you for that. That's like my philosophy.
what you put out there will come back to you.
And it does too.
I am a believer in that as well.
Yep. It's very, very true. And I mean, you can be so positive and so confident that you can become magnetic and then people are like drawn to you. It's kind of crazy. That happened to me about a year ago.
Oh, well, elaborate on that. What do you mean?
Well, then I just started having people contact me out of the blue. And then it's just crazy.
Well, and that's probably about a year ago, I guess, that we first got in touch with you about our table. So
Yeah, it's just out of nowhere. Yeah, with your table, I didn't know like if y'all were on the fence about it or whatever. And I asked you, I said, well, do you want me to make something geared towards you? And then Barry's like, no, we want one.
yeah, as soon as we moved into our house, which we moved in last year on Thanksgiving, the very first thing was we've got to get a table for this giant dining area and let's call Rory. So it was something we didn't even have to think about it or discuss it. It was just like we were both on the same page. Let's call Rory.
Yeah, and that's once you get to a certain, like there's a lot of stuff you don't get to see, because if I was to make something and put it out to all like my followers and stuff, and didn't look good at all, didn't look like I made it, you have to put out the work. You can't miss. You have to do good at it. You have to take your time and think about, I mean, the color choice and everything, because that's what it is. You got to never miss.
Yes, and there is a lot of trial and error to it. And
yes.
Yeah, I've got a whole pile of stuff that no one's ever going to see that I've made. So I get that.
Yeah, what I'll do, like, and what I did for y'all's river table and then pretty much anybody else's, is I'll mix mica and water in different shades and different combinations, and I can get a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like in the resin just by using water. So if anybody's listening, trying to figure out a color choice, use a water bottle.
That is really good advice. Yeah, before you dump 3 or 4 colors of mica into your gallon of resin.
Oh, there's no going back. Another couple tips of advice. If you're going to flood coat, please watch every YouTube video tutorial you can. And please contact Eye Candy Resin Art before you do it.
And we will have all of your links and ways people can get in touch with you in our show notes. So definitely we want people to be able to find you and follow you and join your group. So we'll make sure that they can contact you if they are going to jump out there, either to make their own or if they decide they want to purchase one from you.
Definitely. I love to talk about making them. And I've got a lot of good advice. So if you're going to make one, please contact me before you do.
Okay.
Good tips. Very good tips.
Well, thanks so much, Rory, for joining us today. I have enjoyed talking to you so much. And this is something different. You're the first person we've had on the podcast who does the sort of stuff that you do. So I think people are really going to enjoy what you've had to say and learn from you. So we'll have all your info in the show notes. So you may be getting hit up from people who want to take that first step and go from just thinking about it to actually doing it like you did. So everybody, please make sure you're checking Rory out online, and you can find him at Eye Candy Resin Art. And we'll be back next week with our final episode of the season, and we'll see you guys then. Thanks for tuning in today to A Culture of Inspiration with me, Sarah Brown. I'd love to hear your feedback on ideas for the show. You can share that with me on any of our socials. We're at Counterculture DIY on Facebook, Insta, TikTok, and of course you can also find us at YouTube, Pinterest, and on our blog at counterculturediy.com. Don't forget to follow the podcast wherever you get your podcasts and join me for a new episode next week. Until then, keep creating.